Hey everyone, I'm Kristan Fiandach, and this is Empowered by Women. In August of 2021, I launched Book of Bijou, which is a line of chic and innovative jewelry storage. And in January of 2022, we expanded into what you now see as the Empowered by Women platform. I really wanted to create a centralized space where we can really put emphasis on our mission of women empowerment and community over competition. It really truly does fill my cup to be surrounded by so many of you inspiring women, and the energy that you bring to me and our platform on a daily basis is unmatched. You really all do fuel me with so much motivation to continue doing what I'm doing, and for that, I thank you for being a part of our community, for joining me here today, and just for the ongoing support. I really cannot express how grateful I am and how much it means to me. So again, thank you so much. Before we jump into the episode, please be sure to follow or subscribe to us wherever you are listening, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. And also don't forget to share your favorite episodes with your fellow female founders so that we can continue growing our platform and furthering our mission. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this next interview with another incredible woman in entrepreneurship that I know you guys are going to absolutely love. Today we have the incredible Kristan Fiandach, who is the CEO and founder of Feel Good People, which is the creator behind the Feel Good mat and the associated app. I'm so excited to share this episode with you all listening at home, because this is the first time that I'm really diving into a conversation with someone that has dove knee deep into manufacturing just as much as I have. So I can't wait to get to the nitty gritty of the details. And the product that Kristan has come up with is amazing. You guys are going to love it. So Kristan, first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation with you.
Same. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
So let's just jump into it. Why don't you give our listeners a little background into your career and your journey that has led you to creating this brand new product that is, I know, just going to revolutionize the industry. So dive into it, all the details.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we get there. Yeah, so my background has predominantly been in technology sales. So I've worked in the tech space for over a decade, and sales is very high pressure, very performance based. So stress is a big part, and stress management is a big part of the job. And I, was easily correlating my performance at work to my ability to manage my stress. And just the way I showed up at work, the way I showed up in my interactions with people at home, also not just in the workplace. But a lot of the theme that kind of kept coming up for me was stress. You need to manage your stress. You need to, do the things that are going to help you to take care of yourself and feel good and show up as your best version. And so I really started to get into self-care. That wasn't even a concept to me until maybe 5 years ago. I started going to yoga. I've always been very woo-woo curious. So what are crystals and what are, different sound bath experiences and yoga, of course. And so through that journey, I got into vibration and sound therapy. I would listen to binaural beats on Spotify or YouTube, and I would get into a deep meditative state, and that would really help me relax at the end of the day. And then I, started reading about how vibration therapy, when you apply it to your body, it actually signals to your brain that you're being soothed, and so you're not in any danger. So that automatically, activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the nervous system state that you're in when you're resting and restoring. So I started to incorporate vibration therapy into my sound meditation experience. I bought a kind of a mat, like a vibration or massager mat off of Amazon. And I would use it while I was listening to my binaural beats music. And it was almost like together, it just instantly activated me into this relaxing, restorative state. And I just felt so good, even after, just 20 minutes of using it. And after, it was really quickly on that I just started having ideas of how the integration could be better. Hey, could you, make the sound frequencies match the vibration frequencies? So I'm feeling and experiencing the same vibration frequencies that I'm listening to. Like, could you make the mat more comfy and cozy? Could you make the vibration motor? Like, all these ideas just running through my head. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I'm the type of person that I was like, all right, if I can't stop thinking about something, like, I need to just like start seeing what's possible and going down the rabbit hole of that idea. And that was really what happened. And yeah, so now we've got the Feel Good Mat and app and Feel Good people. And it really all kind of started from just wanting to manage my stress better and show up as a better version of myself.
So while you were talking, I was totally thinking about, how vibration kind of, it immediately puts you into this like restorative state, and it tells your body like you're being soothed, everything's all good. And my sister literally just had a baby like 2 days ago. And I was immediately thinking back to like those bouncers and those vibrator chairs that babies have, right? And that's very soothing to them. So it's kind of like us going back to that state. So interesting connection that I was kind of just thinking about. I'm curious to see like what your time frame was like when you started doing this vibrational therapy. Like, how soon was it? Did you start realizing like, wow, this really is helping me?
I mean, it was instantly that I realized that combining the physical vibration with the sound frequency, because at the end of the day, these are just frequencies, right? Whether they're physically applied to your body or you're listening to them, through music, the frequency healing in and of itself almost instantly helps you relax. It's kind of cool. If you start to look into brainwave entrainment, this is what it's called. But when you're in a anxious or sort of high energy state, you're operating at a very specific brainwave frequency. And when you're in a meditative state or relaxed state, you're operating at a different brainwave frequency. So the theory is if you can apply frequencies that are in any of these states, it's going to entrain your brain to operate in that same state. So the Feel Good Mat, for example, has 3 states. It has a focused state, which is a gamma brainwave frequency. It has a relaxed state, which is an alpha brainwave frequency. And then it also has a deep sleep state, which is a delta brainwave frequency. So when you listen and feel vibrations and sounds in these frequencies, it helps your brain to attune to that same brainwave, that same state. So the effects for me are, pretty quickly come on pretty quickly after maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Now, like if I'm super stressed out, like I would never say like, oh, one thing is going to like fix everything, because I really believe that I'm someone who has chronic anxiety, and stress is something I, through this process, have also learned about having stress chemistry. So like you grow up in an environment, like I grew up in a very stressful environment as a child. So I actually kind of seek out stress. That's probably why I got into sales. Like I feel safe when I'm like working on something or I'm getting through something, because that's a stress chemistry that I'm attracted to. So I just say all of this because it's always going to be different for everybody. Not everybody has the same level of stress when they're going into a relaxation session that they might have, every single time. So it can really vary how effective it is for you or how quickly it takes effect.
That stress chemistry thing is so interesting. The fact that people are actually like attracted to certain kinds of stress and it's a comforting thing for them. I think that's mind blowing. That could be like a whole separate conversation on its own. But I think I'm the same way. Like there are definitely like moments where I am constantly trying to like put things on my plate because I want to be working on something. And even though it might be adding stress to my plate, it's something that like I actually like feel good in at the end of the day, regardless of the stress that it brought on. So I'm going to be looking into that more. I love that you brought that up. And I also like that this mat, Feel Good Mat, like you said, it's not like a one thing fixes everything, that you're dealing with, but it is a really cool layer that you can add on to whatever your self-care routine currently is. Like I read into your story a little bit, like, and you mentioned that you were like kind of into meditating, and you can meditate on your mat, or you can do all these different things on your mat, maybe like work out, and then afterwards kind of lay and relax on it for a little bit. For me, the gym is definitely my way of, coping with stress and kind of getting my body to kind of focus back on myself. So I could definitely see it being, an additional layer to that. That's not completely like changing my routine at all, but such a seamless like addition to it. I'm curious about like when you did start thinking of there has to be like a better way to integrate like the sound and the vibration. First of all, is there really nothing out there like that does that for you?
It's really interesting because when I looked at the market landscape at the time when I had the idea, because of course, right, you have an idea, the first thing you always do is like go and Google it. And you would see, and you will see today, there are products out there for vibration therapy, or they're also called vibroacoustic. And they're like these pieces of furniture that have speakers in them. And so when you listen to the music, the speakers vibrate to, you feel it through the speakers. Like that's how you're feeling the vibration. And it's incredibly effective, but they're thousands of dollars. And I was like, okay, that's not what I'm trying to do. I want something that is much lower in price range, so it's more accessible to more people. I wanted something that was easily portable. I wanted to be able to like roll it up and take it wherever I go, cordless. Like I had all those things in my mind of what I wanted it to be, to kind of make it more accessible, make it easier. And so I think what I love is that this is very much an emerging sort of product. There are products out there like this, but it's not something that like everybody is thinking about. I would say that it's still very, very new in the infancy of, is this even something that like people are going to, to take on? And I think there's a ton of education. I've had seed investors reach out to me, and they're like, this is really interesting, but it's so new. So I think, there is a market that exists for it in the high end. And I think what I'm trying to do with the Feel Good mat is find a space for it in sort of that, it's not cheap. The mat is $4.99. So I'm not going to say, oh, it's, it's affordable, across the board. But it's a lot more accessible than the products that exist today.
So when you first started kind of crafting the idea in your head and like, what can I do to make this better? And I should do this and I should do that. Was that for you, or were you already in the mindset like, no, we're going to make this a thing. We're going into manufacturing. We're going to be this big brand. Because for me with Book of Bijou, I don't know if you've taken a look at my product line, but I created that with the intention of just having something for myself. But then the more that I brainstormed it, the more I was like, wait a minute, this is kind of like a legitimate product. And then that's when I made the decision to go into manufacturing. So I'm curious if your story is kind of the same.
I think it's exactly the same. Like, it's so funny because my boyfriend and I would joke in the very beginning, because he was like, well, at the end of the day, you're going to have $150,000 body massager, and it was like, and I was like, I'll be happy with, not that I would have, thought of that as the best investment. But, I think when you think about it like that, like I always kind of start out with like, I want to create something that I love because I'm passionate about it, but I could see other people also benefiting from this. And I think you kind of get fueled by that. Like it starts with like, oh, I could see like myself enjoying this. This is something I need. That's how probably most people that I know, kind of think about creating products. Of course, there are people out there who just think about turning a quick buck, but that was never what this was going to be for me. I've always wanted to create a product ever since I was like a kid. I would come up with ideas, but nothing ever really resonated with who I am as a person and how I live my life until this came along. And then I was like, oh, okay, no, wait, like this makes sense for me on so many levels. It makes sense because this is an actual product that I enjoy, and I think other people will enjoy. But beyond that, like there's an ethos here around self-care, around relaxation, around stress management. There's a message here. There's a bigger purpose that could be served here that really, I think, almost fuels more of like why I want people to experience it and why I hope it resonates with people.
I think what's really interesting is something that you brought up earlier, and you said this is a pretty emerging category, right? In the wellness industry, I'm assuming you would put this into the health and wellness industry. Um, and the typical kind of barrier to entry that I am normally having conversations with other entrepreneurs is, these are makers like making hand poured candles or jewelry and things like that, very quote unquote saturated markets. Whereas for you, on the other hand, you're creating something that's almost brand new, that's not quite widespread and not very, mainstream yet. So when you were starting to think about all those things and like recognizing, first of all, the price point, and then also that it is kind of a newer emerging category, did you kind of question whether or not it was worth getting into? Was there any hesitation on that end?
There was never hesitation because I am kind of crazy in that way. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are, where you're just like, no, like I just know, and I'm going to try. And if it doesn't, if it fails, whatever. And I think, the other thing for me was that I've always maintained my corporate job, right? Like I never fully was like, this has to work. It was always like, I want this to work. I hope this works, but I'm not like adding more stress into my life if this doesn't work. Like it'll be okay. And I think that's like another thing that I see a lot of people do, where they think that they need to kind of like quit their jobs and like dive in. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everybody. I think if you can be okay with going a little bit slower and carving out as much time as you can to kind of like let your passion or your dream take shape over a more extended period of time, then it becomes more accessible to you. Whereas I think if I had, it would have been a very different experience. I think I would have probably been a lot, because I have a child and I have, like I have a home and like I have bills and I have all these things. And like, was the type of thing that I really wanted to like bootstrap myself because I could. I was in a position where I'd, been saving for a long time for when the big thing came along. And yeah, like I didn't feel so like, this has to work. It was kind of just like, I hope this works and I'm excited for this to work. And if it doesn't, we'll be okay. But gosh, I really hope it does, kind of thing.
Talk to us about the timeline of things, because this is something that you kind of ideated a few years ago, right? Break that down for us.
Yeah. So it was I want to say it was like April of 2021 is when I had got the vibration mat. And then it was like 2 months later, I was on the phone calling different product development companies in the Bay Area. I live in the Bay Area. And so I just like Googled, I was like, product development company. And, I started calling people and talking to like lawyers too, just like patent lawyers, to kind of understand the process. And what's so great is like, you can talk to anybody for like 15 minutes. Like if you fill out a form online, like they'll give you so much information. So I kind of got like a good idea of like, what was it going to cost? What was it going to take? And, it all for me really started with the product development team. So I found a product development team out of Redwood City, which is about an hour from me. And there's a ton out there. Like there's a bunch of companies that you can go with. And you just have to, for me, it was, who did I kind of like see have the reputation, the good reputation through reviews online or just other clients that they've worked with in my space. But then ultimately for me, a lot of the time, it's like, I just felt that vibe. Like I felt like a working vibe with them and I wanted to work with them. And of course I worked with a couple. I had like one lawyer that got kind of weird and I was like, okay, like we're going to just like drop this. And like, so moved on to someone else. So it was all about kind of like finding the right team, the right people that I wanted to work with. And then the process, especially for a very technically integrated product. So you're talking about a mat that has electronics that's powered through Bluetooth to an app. So you have to build the app, you have to have the connection protocols between the mat and the app, And then you actually have to like build the mat in a way that feels comfortable and good, and everything like works together. It's a very long process. And everyone will tell you like, oh, we can do this in like 3 months, 6 months. No, nothing ever went according to plan. What I thought was gonna take a year took 2 years. And then we got to 2 years and we were like, all right, we're gonna launch. It took us another 6 months to actually launch. And so I got to a point where it was like, okay, I'm just like doing the best I can with the timelines. Always have a timeline, like always have, hey, I want to see this result by this date. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay. Like we're going to get there. We are where we are because the companies feel good people. Like like there was a certain point where I was like, I can't be like stressing everyone out and myself out when I feel like everyone's doing their best. We'll get there when we get there. But ultimately, it took us 2 years to launch. So a year longer than I thought it was going to take us to launch on Kickstarter.
I like pre-launched kind of in 2021. I ideated my Book of Bijou, my jewelry storage line in 2020, and then launched a year later. But manufacturing was still a nightmare. Like what you said, it's never going to go according to plan. So it's definitely good to have that kind of like buffer in your minds. Like it's probably not going to hit this deadline. I'm going to set this deadline, but I need to be okay with it, passing that. And then the thing that you said about, having that relationship and finding people that are very aligned to you and the way you work, so important, especially with manufacturers, because this is going to be a very long-term relationship that you want to build. So anyone that's listening out there, if you are looking into manufacturers, it really is important to be able to have that conversation with them and get to know who you're working with and whether or not your goals are aligned. I'm glad that you kind of brought up, you were just like calling people, and there's so much information you can get just by, just starting the process, because that's one of the big questions. Like, how do you get into manufacturing? Like, I don't know anybody in manufacturing. You didn't know anyone in manufacturing. I didn't know anyone in manufacturing. We knew Google. Google knows everybody. So both you and I, we just started calling people and getting our information that way. And that's kind of really how you have to start. But your product is very, very tech heavy. Mine is absolutely not. But so did you have a big tech background? I know you were into sales, but how comfortable were you with the tech side of things?
So my job in tech is partnership. So taking my company's technology and it integrating into another company's technology to create a more, robust solution for customers. So I felt very comfortable with having conversations with developers, with engineers, with product developers, because in my career, like I've talked to those people. Now, do I know all the things that they talk about? Absolutely not. Like, and I have no problem saying that. Like, I will be like, I don't understand what that acronym means. I don't understand what that means. Can you explain that to me? Can you help me understand? I realized very early on that, and this is actually a really good takeaway for anyone who goes down this path, but when you're talking about getting into a contract with someone who's going to help create your product or manufacture your product, it's very important for me to have a weekly update. I need to know, like, every week, like, what were the things that were done? Where are the documentations? Where's everything like gonna live and be stored so I can have it? And it's like, those are like those little things that like a company might say, hey, that feels very micromanaging to me. Like, you're a client, like, I'm just going to deliver you a final product. Great. We're probably not a fit, because I need that level of detail, because I don't know everything that you're doing and I don't understand all these different pieces that are coming together. So if I need to go talk to somebody else about it, I need to be able to reference the documentation and have everything like super clear there. So I think for me, like, I was comfortable because I did have this experience in tech, but I was really just like comfortable to be pushy or comfortable to be assertive with my ask, because I knew that like those things are reasonable to ask for, especially if you're paying for someone's time to build something for you that's ultimately yours. Like, if you set out from the beginning, people are a lot more flexible too if you do it from the beginning versus like during the process. If you say, hey, this is how I like to work, or these are the things that I need, or these are the questions, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions that I'm very unfamiliar with this. If you just set that out from the beginning, I think people, if they want your business, they'll say, yes, I can do that. And then it's not as like it's not as like off-putting later on. And then, yeah, like, I don't think you should ever pretend like you know something. I know people say like, oh, fake it till you make it. Like, yeah, okay, yes, be confident, but like, don't like pretend like you know what people are talking about that could be, and when you really don't, and like be afraid to ask the questions, because you're not going to look, it doesn't make you look, I don't think it makes you look like foolish or anything. I think if anything, it makes you look like you actually really care and are interested in really understanding their work, right? Like you're interested in their work, which I think people always appreciate.
There's so much value in what you just shared. And, anyone that is listening that's trying to go into manufacturing, there's so many tips there that I absolutely, want to reiterate 1,000%. And part of it was, being very clear about what you want from the get-go, and then being very assertive about it and along the process too, not just saying it once, but continuing to follow up, continuing to assert yourself into the process so that you know exactly where the project stands and exactly what is happening and where can it improve, where are the obstacles, and what needs to be done moving forward. I think that was something that I definitely had to work on when I started my manufacturing process. And I think as women, naturally we're very kind of like nurturing, and it's easier for us to kind of like just go with the flow and whatever people can do, and being a little less assertive. But I had to work on that. And I was like, I very much thought like there was actually a day where I was like, you know what? If I was a man, I would have no problem being like, no, this is what I need. This is what I want. You're going to give it to me at this deadline. And I was like, I'm going to start bringing my masculine energy to this process, because we do need to have that assertiveness. Absolutely. So tell us, oh my God, I feel like I could talk to you for another hour, and this half hour has gone by so quick. But you did a Kickstarter, so you've been bootstrapping it for the first couple of years, and then you went into the Kickstarter side of things. So tell us about that. Your campaign is over. So where are we at now with the company?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think I could probably go into a whole other like 20, 30 minutes just on the Kickstarter process, because that was really interesting. I had no experience there, but I did a ton of research, and just going through it, I have a ton of lessons learned. But yeah, so, my manufacturer, of course, was like, sell 1,000. And I was like, oh no, like that sounds so really crazy to me, because I really wanted to get out enough product where obviously we could afford to meet our manufacturing minimums. That's always important to do, but also enough where like I could still be on the front end of any customer support things that came up, right? Because of course, that's going to happen. This is a new product. There's going to be, in my mind, I always looked at my Kickstarter group as sort of my beta batch. So these are the first 100 people. We sold 100 mats. So these are the first 100 people that are going to, get to experience it first in the market. They're going to provide feedback. We're going to learn things together. And that's also what I really loved about doing a Kickstarter. Like if you're putting something out into the market that is very, different or technical, even to that, kind of end, because Kickstarter community, there's a ton of really cool niches in there, but definitely like for really like different or novelty types of tech products, that's what they had called it when I was talking to a bunch of people. They're really receptive to that. And so what's nice about that is you're going to have people that understand that this is a new product, and that this is something that, they're going to want to give feedback. Like I've had so many people through the Kickstarter provide feedback of like, I love this color. Like, is it going to be able to do heating? Is it going to do that? Like so many, can I do biofeedback? Like so many interesting questions and just like product recommendations. And I don't think you necessarily would get that if somebody was just going directly to your website per se. So, I think what my goal at this point is to get those orders out to my Kickstarter backers or customers at this point. That's hopefully going to be in July, August timeframe. And then once we get that feedback, and hopefully, there's not a ton of editing or revisions that need to be done, we can then start mass producing by, the holidays, which would be great, because that's usually a time when people are really thinking about obviously like gifting and New Year's, and like, hopefully making some positive resolutions and maybe living less stressfully as one of them. So that's kind of the timelines of where we're at right now.
So have you gotten samples in already?
Yes, so we've had a number of samples,
Mhm.
which has been an interesting process as well.
What number are you on?
3. Because it's interesting, right? Because like you, especially during COVID, or not even like, I mean, so 2021 to 2022, like you couldn't even really ship a lot of things either. Like that was really hard too. Like you took forever to get product, and we're talking about, I've got, like I said, electronics, I've got soft goods, cotton, batting, foam. Like there's so many different materials that go into this product that are coming from all different places all over the world. And I think that also was something that kind of extended timelines. And then you get a product and you don't, I'm not the type of person to be like, hey, can you make this change and I'll send it back to you. I was like, all right, I'm going to rip it open. I want to see what's going on inside. I'm going to like, dissect my this thing, right, and get in there and get my hands dirty. And so um, that back and forth, between me saying, oh, this needs to feel like this, and how that's interpreted by somebody, who's actually making the product is different, right? And so I think the back and forth on product between the development team or the design team, and then you as the ultimate decider of what the final product's going to be, that back and forth, that communication, can be challenging, right? Are we saying, when I say I want the color beige, is my beige your beige? When I say I want it to feel soft but still a little firm, like what is that, right? Like you're like, I have no idea what that means. So I'm hopeful that the latest one that I've seen is amazing. This is definitely the one that the Kickstarter backers are going to get. So now it's to get their feedback, right? And that will be that. I'm actually really looking forward to that.
I am also looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that I can see this product in person sometime soon. We're gonna have to get together so I can just check it out. There's actually an event that I want you to come to as a vendor, but we'll save that
Yes.
conversation for another time. So we're definitely gonna have to do a part 2 because there's so much more that I want to dive into with you. So we're gonna get that scheduled. But for now, where can everyone find you and Feel Good People in the Feel Good Map?
Yes, absolutely. And I was actually just thinking, in person, like where people can experience them at, is absolutely what I want to do. So please let me know about your upcoming events, because I am totally going to be there. But for now, feelgoodpeople.com or Feel Good People on Instagram, because we do share a ton of tips on ways to relax and de-stress beyond using the mat and the app. You can actually pre-order the mat on the website right now for $2.99. So you get a good, discount on the mat if you pre-order it today. And then I also have on the website, I was going to mention this because like I said, for Feel Good People, the mat is our marquee product. It is kind of our, our gift to the world at this point. But we also have a quiz on our website that's called Your Feel Good Style. And it's a really cool quiz. I think I want to say it's maybe like 6 or 7 questions, but it will tell you your feel good style. So some people, to your point, they lean to like a physical activator where like working out or going on walks or these types of things help them de-stress. Some people love organization. So like cleaning and like organizing the pantry. So I have this really cool quiz where you can go and like learn your feel good style. And then, yeah, again, like Instagram, we share a ton of tips on breath work and things you can do that are like, in the moment stress relievers, different types of breathing exercises or eye exercises that can help stabilize your nervous system, things like that as well.
Awesome. And as always, all of those links are going to be linked down below in the show notes. But Kristan, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we're going to have to do a part 2. There's still so much that I want to dive into. So for now, thank you for sitting with me. And again, thank you. I'm volunteering you for a second session. Thank you for joining me in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal. It's been great.
Another incredible interview with yet another inspiring woman in entrepreneurship. I hope you guys loved that episode just as much as I did. Before we leave off, if you yourself are also a woman entrepreneur, I would love for you to consider joining our Empowered by Women directory. We're looking for women-owned product and service-based businesses in the US to help us build the go-to place for our communities to find local women to shop with and connect with, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. All of the details can be found on www.empoweredbywomen.com/apply-directory. Of course, that's going to be linked in the show notes below, and you're also welcome to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. But other than that, thank you again so much for joining us, and I will see you in the next episode.